Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The GOAT.
Yeah, baby, welcome back, welcome back.
Wait, I got to turn my sound up. I can't hear. Okay, go.
Yeah, you sound good. I think you were good. It was Damien that sounded a little quiet.
Damien,
Quiet. Am I better now?
a
Little
little
bit.
louder.
Yeah, you could go louder.
Louder,
I don't
louder,
know
louder.
All right, that sounds better, I think.
Better.
Okay.
Not sure what happened between now and a few minutes ago, but
Let me go mute in the office. Any better?
yeah,
Yeah, that was better right there.
that's
Perfect.
better.
All right.
Okay, now
So now we got the technical difficulties out of the way and all that kind of fun stuff. Last week on our show, we had Gwen, what was her name? O'Brien, who suicide awareness. And boy, is that topic coming up a lot lately.
yeah, unfortunately, it's a hot topic.
It really is. We're going to be having a networking event, by the way, that's going to be talking about suicide awareness. And when is that? On November
5th, Friday, November 5th. We'll have
Right.
more information coming very, very soon. Hopefully by the end of this week, we'll have more details and more information.
Right. And so, and we're going to do a full mental health awareness and not just suicide awareness. But anyway, I am so excited for our guest today. He reports on goats. That's his
Yes, he
job.
does. Yeah, yes, it is actually.
He goes around looking for goats. His job is to be a goat follower and tell about goats and talk about goats and tell their story, and not just goats, but anybody. We got
mostly.
Yeah, we got Chad Rader that's coming on, and he talks a lot about high school goats, right?
Yeah, yes, he does.
Varsity.
All sports.
Yes. Let's bring him on.
Okay.
Well, hello.
Great.
Yeah, how are you?
Doing great. Hopefully my audio is doing great. So that's we are rolling right along. Thank you for having me on.
He's got the real audio. So, Chad, we're so excited that right before the show started, you started to tell your story, and I'm like, wait, don't tell it yet because we want this for the show. So,
good deal. Depends how much story you want. I can talk and I can keep it short, whatever you wish.
Well, what I want to hear, Chad, is the real. How did you get started, and what motivated you, and where you're at right now? Doing the high school scene is a lot of work and a lot of energy. Why do you do that? So let's go back to just how did you get involved in this?
Well, I mean, if you want to keep going back, I mean, you can start as a kid. I was just a dork that loved sports media. You know, got your, at the time, Street and Smith's magazines for football, basketball, and baseball, and just your preview magazines, and watched all the shows. And so did some of that. And of course, my school was a 4A school at the time, but I was right on the verge of making the teams, but I ended up stepping out, not playing my varsity my senior year. Well, turns out that I noticed that the Leavenworth Times did not have sports writers at some of the games. So being a journalism guy, I started to call up the sports editor and said, hey, look, I can do this, and come on down, write a story. And we usually talk to the coach and all that. And I said, I already did. So come on down in 30 minutes. So down I went. In my senior year, I was covering the mighty Lansing Lions for the Leavenworth Times as a senior in high school. So that was a big deal. You know, as Jordan jokes about not making the high school team his junior year, whatever that story Michael Jordan had. I actually got cut somehow from our high school newspaper, but yet I've been obviously the one that when I made the city newspaper. So I was glad to show that to our English teacher that year. That I couldn't make the school paper, but I could make the city newspaper. So I was able to use those clippings in front of you young people. That's a good thing to learn. If I have a few learning lessons out of this, is that you can just work. You know, it may not have been for any money, but eventually got into college and at University of Kansas, and Lawrence Journal World needed some people, and my name floated around, and I had the clippings from an actual newspaper. It wasn't just I wrote for my high school newspaper. Right. So then I was working at the Journal World, and amongst things was, of course, KU basketball was great during I'm dating myself, Jacques Vaughn, Paul Pierce.
Okay.
Getting old, yeah. But also, and then in that Chiefs 13-3 Lynn Elliott year, I was covering all the Chiefs games there at home, and that was a fun year. And it ended pretty bad and very memorable. But amongst the other things I did was a lot of high school writing was one of my main roles, and I covered a lot of schools in the Lawrence area, and especially the small town schools, from the Tonganoxies and Baldwins and stuff to some state and playoff stuff. So I always did that as a writing for that. Went on to a couple other things and kind of.
Chad, which out of those did you like the most? Like, did you like professional? Did you like high school? Which one did you like the most?
Yeah, I'll be on the fence and like both. I mean, there's nothing better than being like a Monday night football game, a first Monday night football game. I guess we have time. Just a junior in high school and just high school and college, and maybe as a senior actually. It doesn't matter. I was in my early 20s, and go out there and jump in the elevator, and the Monday Night Football crew jumps on with me, and
Wow.
the whole cheerleading crew. And I was like, man, this is impressive. And sat down for and then sat down for lunch, or I guess at the dinner. Boy, I'm really off. The dinner that night, and it's like Lynn Dawson and George Brett end up at the same table, and I roll up the elevator again with some guy in a biker jacket. I'm like, who is this guy? Turns out the opening anthem is by Huey Lewis and the News, and this guy was one of the News. And so after the game, it was Denver versus the Chiefs, and John Elway and Montana, I think, were in the game. And so I was around interviewing those, and I stood around waiting for John Elway and the guy next to me. I go, hey, we have the same birthday. And he go, oh, that's cool. And it was Huey Lewis. And so some stuff like that just cannot get replaced at the high school level.
Yes.
But on a day-to-day, do they really care who you are? No. Whereas at the high school, they care who you are. They know your name. It's a big deal to them that you showed up. They might keep that clipping for years, or they remember you years later. So there's goods and bads of both. Like I said, that rode the fence, but I didn't really give you a straight answer. But there's goods of both. But eventually, it's really satisfying in the end to do the high school stuff. So
I love that.
Yeah. So
That
from then, what's that?
No, go ahead, please.
I'm leading to what you wanted to do. I'm just like dumping the whole history of my life out, I guess, here. That I ended up applying and forcing my way, and huffed and puffed and blew my way into being an intern at the Royals. I was an older intern, about 24, 25 years old, in the media relations department. But it's something I wanted to do since I was, young, and who didn't? So I was out there at the Royals for a year, and then eventually got hired full time because the internet came along and they need somebody to do that, which I start to see those pieces together here. That started to learn how to do stuff with websites and along with the publication side. So eventually that grew. I was there for 4 years, made connections with the 810 guys, kind of helped them out with their website. And then eventually I said, hey, we should do a high school website. And they're like, yeah, that's great, but we don't have the staff for that. But if you want to do that, you start it, you do whatever happens with it, it's yours, so to say. So that we did. I started 810 Varsity, and then eventually led to doing online broadcasts. That was a new thing to everybody. Streaming games on Friday night. You could watch 15, 20 games all at once, click them on a Friday night. You could watch Park Hill to Blue Valley to Blue Springs. And then after that, after a couple of years, I got into some basketball events, AAU events, even met Damian Brown here and at those, and started to do events. And then so we had high school showcases during the year. We have one this coming up this Saturday in soccer. We have 4 or 5 basketball during the year. Then we have some AAU football combines, basketball combines, chances for students to kids to be exposed and get some exposure to college kids, and opportunity for them as well. So hopefully I kept that underneath about 5 minutes, but felt like it was 20. So, but that's the short answer.
You're hosting these things, or you're representing and presenting at those, or filming or whatever. What's your role in like a combine and doing those kinds of things?
Yeah, as you mentioned, all this stuff, the website, the social media, the broadcast, the events are all my brain trust, I guess, if you will. And so, if meteor comes and hits me, and HM Varsity probably shuts down. So that's the bad news. But the good news is that, you are the one kind of doing it. You aren't worried about some corporate numbers or something that some others have endured around the city. That's been a kind of a benefit. That's one gratifying thing that And I'm not knocking them at all, any of these people, but the Kansas City Stars coverage has kind of waned a bit over the years and cut back. And then Metro Sports at Time Warner Cable to Spectrum now is now
Right.
doing Game of the Week, but they used to have what was the Hy-Vee shootout
Show.
and kind of
Yeah.
overtook that, and
Right.
some other things as well along the way that people have needed some new things. And so there's some other online entities as well, in addition to myself, but doing the events and everything and state broadcast and other things around the Kansas and Missouri has been quite a deal. And whether it's a grandma in Iowa gets to watch their kid online, or somebody gets an opportunity to play in one of these events and it feels like they're on a bigger stage, or college coaches are there. That's just great for everybody in the city.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm the one that organizes and gets the matchups and the venues and all that stuff. So that's where that's at, to answer your question, Jeff.
I was gonna say earlier, you gave us kind of like that holy shit moment for where your career got to, with the seeing those people in the elevator and all. What was kind of like on that later? Like, who was the athlete that was like, holy crap, you're reporting on, or you got to see actually do their amazingness? Like, who is that on both levels, like the pro level and the high school level?
To see, I was around. Voice again dates me. The McGuire Sosa year that they all went and tried to hit 70 home runs, and McGuire's case he did. Personal note, I got a one-time hang. It was during the draft, and suddenly I was George Brett's best friend for the day, and he paraded me around how the internet and this guy knows everything, and he walked me around, had me meet everybody around the room, and 2 days later I said, "Hi, George," and before a game, I don't think he knew who I was. And
Wow.
a week later, then I was his best buddy again. The next time I saw him, I had no idea who I was. So took it for what it was worth at the time. So
Right.
I'll think of some athletes like you're talking about. There's quite a few. The high school level, there's a major event that really kind of catapulted the A-10 varsity high school events. First year was a municipal. It's like holding your kids' T-ball event at Kaufman. It was just too big, but it got me on the map. Had some nice matchups. Second year was at Johnson County. I think you even had the picture on the intro. And had Michael Porter Jr. there, and he was quite a phenom to watch. I don't think you're talking top 1, 2, or 3 kids in the country at the time. I think there's a couple other ones that rankings but I think we're seeing at the NBA level too. But he just did things like threw up a shot in the middle of the lane to himself and dunked it, or missed a shot and went over 3 people and dunked it. It was a spectacle. The place was packed. And then on Monday, the phone rang or emails blew up of can I get in your events from a lot of schools in the area. And we went from 1 event to 3, and now we're at 5. So
Wow.
Michael Porter Jr. is definitely one of the high
Congratulations.
schools. And there's some other ones too that you see around with AAU and stuff, but that was my event, and he put on quite a show. I think he had like 37 points and 12 rebounds against Blue Valley Northwest. But there's professionally, I'll just throw those guys out. I guess the McGuire Sosa era there was a lot of, obviously maybe it was some enhanced performances at the time, but it was still pretty impressive to watch.
Hey Chad, I got a question. You were talking about do you write the articles and you get footage and different things on these athletes? That has to have quite an impact on their ability to get recruited, on who you're focusing on, who you're giving attention to. Do you send those or give those to college scouts or to those programs that are looking for, like, do you use that to help the athletes get noticed?
Yeah, well, there's be different things. The stats that we have online, a10varsity.com, especially the football stats, I end up seeing that regurgitated a lot, where somebody will say that they were number 3 in the city in rushing or whatever it may be. We've given out some awards as well that people I've seen later in college media guides, or people have thrown up there on their recruiting that they are named this and that player of the year for small class lineman or whatever.
Right.
And that's really gratifying as well. And it's good that they have something to have in their back pocket to wave around. But then also, like you said, there's stats like you have at a football combine where you have, a 4.3 in the 40 and a 4.5 in the shuttle or whatever. You get those results. The ones on site get to see it, but you send those out to college coaches, and then they get to look through this database and see where these kids are at. And if a 6'5" guy is running a 4.5 and he's a defensive end, and has a shuttle time of this, and he can vertical that, and they can just look, type it in and filter by that stuff. And so there's that, and the basketball combines guys can come out and see in firsthand or by video as well nowadays. So whether it's stats, whether it's video, you're right. There's a lot of things that do go out to coaches as a result. And then that's gratifying too, that you can probably get that out to the college coaches and give that opportunity. There's a lot of them around, but you don't always want to pay $300 to go to this one in St. Louis or Iowa, or you don't always know who you're going with either in these things. And sometimes you feel like you want to be a trusted source for parents and high school kids.
I agree totally. And I think it's also one of those things where you're maybe giving attention to not just the great players, but you're giving attention to all players that may even have a shot at D2 or D3 or something like that, NAIA, something, but you're giving all that attention. A lot of the great players, they get these services.
Yeah, everyone gets, enamored with, hey, do you have this guy? Or, we have a tournament, you get worried about Jason Tatum and what time he's playing at. And you should, because that's what the common person's interested in. But really, 95% of your kids or more are probably Division II, NAIA, JUCO bound. And those are the ones that really need it. And so some of our tournaments and events are really focused in on those kids, because those other guys, if you're Division I, especially that, Power 5 level, you're going to get your offers. You're going to get your looks.
Yes.
I'm not knocking my own product, but yeah, it's great to be at it, but they're just fine. They're on their way. They don't need my help. But those other guys that are maybe out of Harrisonville or Base or Linwood or Kearney or even further Chillicothe or Holton, Kansas or somewhere, they come in town for these things, and this is their opportunity. It's not quite the Willy Wonka golden ticket deal, but kind of somewhat like that, hey, this is your chance to be out there in front of people. So
I love that. I think that's really cool that you're doing that.
It's essential.
Tons of kids that giving them a shot. If a kid has hope, like maybe I can go and play, even if it's D2, D3, it's like, they work hard and they want to continue on with that lifestyle. So congratulations for doing that.
Now, Chad, with that said, because again, you've seen, again, in the reporting of some of the high level athletes and even some of the professionals, and even hearing some of their stories about what they had to do to make it, going back down to the grassroots of these kids that are getting ready to enter into your, it's like, what are some advice that you would give for them to be like GOAT mentality, GOAT focus, to help them achieve that GOAT dream, if that's what they have, to be the best, wherever level that is?
Well, I definitely think you got to be confident, on the court. You got to be confident off the court. If something, it fails or whatever, then you can't just hang your head. You got to be able to pick it back up. I don't think Pat Mahomes, the incomplete pass, just that's the end of it. He goes right back out there. The next one. So, and if you make a mistake, it's over. It's done. That I was asked before what one of my mantras was. My dad, I guess, made up some term paper where this is all he wrote on the line. He got an A in his master's class, and what first philosophy and counseling, what's done is done, can't be redone. And that's true. I mean, you go out and make a mistake, just it's over, move on. It's tough to do. Sometimes you dwell on it a little bit. Or learn from it. That's great. But some people just beat themselves up. You can't do that. And especially you're talking about, maybe the great ones already know that, but the middle level, you're talking about, you got to move on. You can't second guess yourself. And you hope that there's been a lot more opportunities nowadays with club, AAU, however you want to term it. You get more opportunities to be in some of those spots, whereas used to be before, if you're out in, I don't know, let me think of a school here. Sorry, Richmond, Missouri, or St. Joe Lafayette or something. Your opportunity was in maybe the state tournament to be seen, and that's it. Who's your style? Right. And now you can go play AAU. You can be against those guys in some games or volleyball club or whatever it is. You're good enough, you're going to make those teams or work your way up to the club level. That's the benefit of club. Now, there's obviously, I'm going down different tangents, but it also kind of takes away from the high school season at times as well. So, but I mean, that's one thing, just getting out there. If you see a camp, get out there and get you exposure. I think that's the biggest thing, is be seen. How do I be seen? And especially in whether maybe it could be here in the city at Raytown or something. I'm not really seen while I'm at Wyandotte or something, because we aren't on TV, or I'll insult myself. A10 Varsity didn't come out and cover us or whatever it may be.
Right.
You go to those little, get a chance, if it's a money issue, usually we comp people for that too. If you need to be in a combine or event, get out there and be against these type of kids, especially if you think you're that, or
Right.
you can stack up with them. This is your chance. So I guess just create your own opportunities, since that's another good one, is just create your own opportunities. Don't say woe's me. If you do get that, and we've seen it all. I know you have Coach D, that you sit there and seen kids get the opportunity, and we'll give you car rides, whatever it is, of your financial situation, maybe your family situation, and they just fall flat on it.
Yes.
You're just like, oh, and I get it. Sometimes it's a family issue. Sometimes it's this.
Right.
Other times it's just that they rather be doing something else. And that's what really makes the big difference between this level and this level. Or are you really playing, or you just kind of like to play?
Very true.
So a list of all your A10 Varsity, the combines and all the different events, is that on your website?
Yeah, we have a list of them. It's underneath the events tab. We have a running list of those as well there. We try to feature, as they come up. Be sure to promote those on the social media channels. On the website, of course, is one of our featured spots on the a10varsity.com as those weeks come up. But events and some other sections as well, you can find all those listings.
So what could Triumph do, knowing what we do, and you kind of know what we do, is how could we help? I love your concept. I love what you're doing, providing opportunities, getting these kids known. And I love that. It actually has our mission also, but we're doing it a little different way. But what could we do to support you and your efforts at A10 Varsity? How could we help support this cause that you're doing? I love it.
Yeah, there's many different layers too. I mean, you always think, I'm sure you think of different layers to what Triumph does, and maybe we could do this or that, or a few more people, a few more dollars, or whatever it may be. And we can go do this next level. And some of that is, I would like to create some opportunities. We mentioned the, Wyandotte situation, Washington, the KCK schools, the Raytowns, the East and Centrals, and Lincoln Preps and stuff like that. How do we help maybe those kids too? Then get them. That's a different topic, but how do they help those guys just get shirts and practice shorts? I've heard we all know some stories, and some people just don't know this. That this goes on at these schools, or what is not going on.
Right.
That they just don't have adequate equipment, or maybe they only have one tackle dummy for an entire team, or 3 basketballs. The one thing I've been trying to do this year is maybe raise some funds and awareness in some capacity for those schools. And maybe the first starter is the 5 KCK and the 5 IL schools, and keep working. That's maybe one thing. Obviously, us talking today is a first step to doing that. This program is doing a lot just to discuss some of that. And then eventually, obviously, just continue to get staff and everything else is always big, just to get exposure for kids, and whether it's contributions. And sometimes you just got to, back to what you said about how these kids can be noticed or whatever it is, it's just calling your own name out, or your parent or somebody email, get out. Social media has been great. Everybody posts huddle videos and all that stuff. And some of it's overwhelming, to be honest. Everybody tags in everything. They get a 3-yard run, and here's your. I scored 5 points, and here it is. You're like, wow, it's a lot to go through. So, bless you all. But sometimes the JV kid putting up there say, "Well, wait your turn." But whatever it is, but there's some fantastic stuff, and it does give kids opportunity from wherever. From Warrensburg or wherever it is, to be noticed, that they have these tapes that the old days of, I got to have a tape and my coach send it out, is, hey, here it is. It's on huddle. Here you go, coach. Look at this. So
very true.
So that's one thing is to be noticed is that, but I'm trying to expand on other sports as well, volleyball, soccer, that type of stuff as well. So we're trying to keep expanding as we go.
You do interviews with these kids, correct? Or a lot of the athletes?
Yeah, we do. Whether it's, sometimes kids just want to do it by text or whatever. Sometimes it's by, like something like we're doing right now, or over the phone, or whatever, or in person. So yeah, we do talk to them.
Well, if you ever want to give a child additional exposure, it's like we want to this is a platform that we want to be able to use to give kids exposure to is the GOAT show. It's like, not that they have to be a GOAT, greatest of all time, but they want to be.
Sure.
They have the desire, and it's like, I would love to give kids exposure and be able to get their story out and tell how hard they work to get to where they are.
Yeah, I can send some suggestions too. Maybe somebody that's a 4.0, or I guess now
Yes.
over a 4.0 nowadays, 4.5 student or whatever the
Yes.
heck it is. But they're in 3 different sports, or they're helping their
Yes.
community, or maybe just some kid that just has overcome a lot just to even just get to where
Right.
they're
Love
at.
it.
Those are the
That's
ones that we want, is the ones
Yeah.
that have overcome some adversity, and because it's like their story needs to be heard too.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I know Coach D's heard a lot too, and he does a fantastic job with these kids as well. That they've had to do a lot just to get themselves every day to school, or something crazy that a lot of people just do not will never understand.
Nope.
And so it's amazing what those kids have fortitude to go through and go to some environments that aren't really conducive to being in school or whatever, and just getting themselves to practice and all that. And you can just see it, 16-year-old, you can just tell that, man, this, especially those type that we're talking about, that act like they're 20, 24 years old. It's like, wow, this is impressive, especially everything you've gone through. So definitely we'll forward some names and such
Great.
at some point to you guys, and that'd be great for you guys to bring attention to those kids as well.
For sure.
That kind of brings us to the GOAT tip of the week, doesn't it? GOAT tip is recognize and reward. And basically, it's your philosophy, my friend Chad. It is recognize what you do. It's these kids are working hard. They need to be recognized. They need to get the opportunity, but you need to be able to reward yourself too. It's like one of the things that a lot of people don't do is especially athletes, is we're our biggest critics.
Very true.
We beat ourselves up all the time, and instead of being our biggest fan, if we're our biggest fan, if we love us, if we're like, oh, dude, you gave it your best shot, way to go for that.
I literally had an athlete in our session miss 8 shots in a row from the free throw line. Easy shot that he knows he can make, frustrated as all get out. I said one minor adjustment for him to make. He made it. That's luck. And I said, if you can't acknowledge that one thing worked, then it won't work again, because you're still focused on that is 100%. I literally just saw that lived out in front of me like a day ago. That is so real. That is so real. Got to allow that reward and recognize what you do accomplish, no matter. It's a stepping stone.
Right.
It's a stepping stone, man.
Right. Well, right now I want to do a little house. I always call it homework, but it's housekeeping, right?
Keeping, yeah.
Yeah, housekeeping. All right. So just to go through next week, who do we have on the show? Oh man, I lost my sheet.
Give me 1 second. I can look over here.
That would be great. You can tell we're pretty organized, Chad, right? You can say we got it all together.
I can tell by the intro. So
yeah. Matt Gordon, director of the KC Athletics Soccer Club.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. We haven't really tapped the soccer world a whole lot.
No,
we haven't done a lot with the soccer world. So that's going to be interesting. And then what else do we got homework or housekeeping wise?
The other housekeeping item was the boot camp we have coming up. Jeff, you want to give the highlights about that?
Oh, man, I'm excited about the boot camp coming up. We're going to do a mental toughness boot camp, and it's going to be challenges that are going to test your mental toughness to see where you're at as far as where are you in the professional ranks? Are you using the same skills or able to be tested like Kobe or like LeBron or anybody that's mentally tough? What skills are you using? And then we're going to teach skills along the way, but it's going to be a hoot. I think it's going to be a riot. They're going to have challenges that they got to do that test their grit, their mental, their attitude. They got to work as a group and as a team to get out of a room. So I think it's going to be a fun event, and I hope a lot of kids show up.
Yeah. Some of the challenges are going to be there, definitely, like you said, for a visual perspective, for people to understand. it's not like a fear factor. We're going to be eating things crazy per se, but you're definitely going to be pushed towards some physical limits as far as like some obstacle courses that you not only can accomplish for yourself, but you have to actually work with a team to get everyone accomplished. So a good visual is the MTV's the challenge, where you got, sometimes you're working with someone, sometimes you're working against someone. So again, what does that mean? Tests and all those different elements that an athlete and again, a person can go through. I'm very excited about it as well, Jeff. It's gonna be fun.
We're definitely gonna test their fear. I can't wait. So, Chad, I just want to end up and say thank you so much for being our guest today.
Yeah, it's so good to see you again, man.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure to get on here. And like you said, there's always some ideas I'm sure we could think of collectively, especially the mental health part or that part of the game as well. That there's also some I've thought about, whether it's just some type of counseling or some type of program for these kids, that can get pretty down on themselves or they need just a little boost or my recruiting isn't going like this and parents need help too. That what to do from a parent side, sometimes there's just a lot of different angles that can be done. And it's great to see you guys are doing that, of course, and anything we can work collectively too, that'd be great as well.
I love it. You mentioned the school that you were interested in going in and encouraging and working with. We're doing some things with Lincoln Prep, hopefully, that will give their athletes some access to our services.
That'd be great. Obviously more to learn about those and get those out there to other schools and kids as well.
That sounds great. Thank you so much again.
Yes, Chad, man. Thank you, Ken, brother. So good to learn more about you than just because we see all on the surface. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we will see you all next week again on The Go. Talk to you later.
Bye, everyone.